now you touched up on something important, which is thought leadership. Let's talk more in depth about email. Now, you guys that are pioneers in this, where do you see email marketing is headed? What's the future of email?
Yeah, so I mean, I think we've all heard for the past 5, 10, 15 years, email's dying, and yet here it is, stronger than ever and growing. We're sending more emails now than ever. So I really think for the next 5, 10, 15 years, it's going to be continue to be a major part of your marketing strategy and of our daily lives, right? And I think as we continue to grow in the way that we can talk to people, so there's SMS, there's Facebook Messenger, there's WhatsApp, there's email. Email's becoming even more of a personal relationship. So I think having that one-to-one relationship with someone's inbox from a marketing perspective is going to be really important. One thing that I don't like seeing anymore, and what I'd like to see brands change, is use a no reply email address. If you're able to contact your users, they should be able to contact you, even if it's just a receipt. What if they have a question on it? Like I'm a firm believer that the inbox is very personal. If you check it after a long day, you don't want to see things you don't want to see. So if you are sending that important message, allow the user to interact with you in a way that they're comfortable with.
Okay, interesting. And I know I met with a gentleman from Nihilus. You guys know Nihilus. They have an API, email API, but that only syncs with your email inbox to pull emails out. And he said something that really struck me, is that, you know, Slack was able to take all the bad communication from, not the bad, but the communication that were intended for email out of email. So, you know, when I met with SendGrid, they also said that, you know, nobody cares about the marketer. It's all about the experience of the user. So you guys are actually affirming this. And we work with a lot of companies who really don't understand how email is changing, and they use cold lists and they just blast out to cold emails. What do you guys suggest to this practice?
Don't ever do that, please, or you will get kicked out of our service and others, because at the end of the day, we really want to do right by email, right? We have a very extensive compliance process in place, and we want to respect people's inboxes. You know, it's not a place where I want to go in at the end of my day and see a million things that I don't know why I signed up for this or where it came from. So I think really listening to your users, you know, don't ever purchase a list. Don't ever send an email to someone that you haven't contacted in 5 years. They probably don't want to hear from you. So keep your email list as active as possible. Listen to your users, judge the feedback, send benchmarks and KPIs for yourself, and really go into email with a strategy and not just, hey, I have an email, I should hit send. So really putting a plan in place and knowing what you want to get out of email is really important when you think about your email program.
Now, I know some businesses literally build their entire kind of customer acquisition around just cold blasting. Even including the book by Aaron Ross, The Predictable Revenue. He said just compile emails of executives and just send them emails, and who replies, you try to kind of reach out and sell them. That model, I understand, is very tough now, right? Now, for those who have seen a tank in their open rates, even if they were doing cold blast in the past and they build up a list from there on, what do you get to say for those who have seen that kind of decrease in opens or click-throughs?
Yeah, definitely. I would say the ISPs, so Gmail, Yahoo, AOL, Hotmail, they're smarter than you, period. They're smarter than me. They're smarter than all of us collectively, and they're only getting smarter. They really are taking all of the feedback they get from their users. So not just the regular metrics we're used to seeing, open, click, unsubscribe, marked as spam, but they're smart enough now to see, did they delete the email without opening it? Is it just going through their inbox and they have 9,000 unread messages that they don't check? Are they forwarding it to a friend? Are they moving it into a folder? Like all of these touch points, ISPs are looking at to judge what to do with that next message that comes from your domain or your IP, etc. So really it is like, listen to your users. ISPs are getting smarter. So something that might have worked 10 years, 5 years, even a year ago, probably isn't going to work anymore. And if you're not adjusting with the times, like I would expect your open rates to continue to go down. If you continue to send these cold emails, at what point you're just not going to be able to get that message to the inbox. And then not only that, when you do send high quality mail to highly engaged contacts, you're going to be judged for the bad practices you have, and that also is going to end up in the spam folder. So really, it's taking a holistic approach at how you are sending email, making sure you're following all those best practices.
Okay, so you recommend doing some sort of a sunset policy, or even segmenting your list between the active and non-active users. That's the sort of practices you.
100%. Best case scenario in my ideal world, you wouldn't send an email to anyone who hasn't engaged. So opened, clicked, or subscribed in the past 30 days. I know that's a big ask for a lot of companies. But if we go 3 months out, 6 months out, we're okay. Really, my recommendation to anyone thinking about email is don't send an email to anyone who hasn't opened, clicked, or subscribed in the past 6 months, right? Let's flip the script and think about you as the end user. If you get an email every day, once a week, or even once a month for 6 months, and you didn't open that email once, you're probably never going to open it. So the thought process that, oh, this person subscribed a year ago, maybe they're going to open this next email, they're not. It's just going to actually bring down your email program instead of like having this vanity metric of I have 1,000, 10,000, 100,000 subscribers. It actually hurts you more than it helps you at the end of the day.
That's interesting. So we're actually testing an automated sunset policy and reactivation. So it's not fully out yet, but typically what we'll do is we will just tell the program, send for active users, those who do not open 3 campaigns or over the course of 6 months, put them in a dormant state, and every 3rd campaign, reactivate 10% of that dormant. Do you think that's okay from a practice perspective?
My recommendation would be, yes, do those re-engagement campaigns, but tailor the message to that user, right? Mm-hmm. If you're someone who hasn't opened in 6 months and then you're only getting 1 in every 3 campaigns, like tailor them, hey, I haven't seen you in 6 months. Are you still interested? Don't just send them that same copy you're sending your engaged users, because we need to treat them as a dormant user, right? They're not the same as someone who's opening and clicking every day. They're clearly not engaging with that content. So let's tailor messaging to those unengaged users to make them more engaged, or let's give them the opportunity to say, hey, I don't want this anymore. Like, I wanted it for a time, and now it's just not what I'm interested in.
So about quality. Now, I know some of the ASPs and apps are actually auto-suggesting to you, like Gmail, for instance. I took a snapshot, I put it on our blog, is when it tells you haven't opened this email for the past 3 months. Would you like to unsubscribe? And they have the unsubscribe automatically, like right there in the suggestion section, and it's gonna become a default eventually within the app. So when I see a Google app, the Gmail app doing it, I'm pretty sure most of the other apps are going to follow. So that's pretty interesting. So the defaults are changing. It's getting harder and harder to send. For those who have a big list, let's say you have 2 million customers in your e-commerce, what do you recommend as far as the best practice for? And I know we went through the segmentation and all that, but these are 2 million people in your customer database. What's your recommendation?
Collect as much data as you can. Really, it's the data that you collect and can act on that will make your email program and your business ultimately successful, right? Having 2 million people who bought something once and then having their information but not knowing what they bought, when they bought, why they bought, it gets very difficult to re-engage with them or get them to come back, right? So it's really understanding your customers, empowering your marketers with actionable data so that they can manage those 2 million people really in different ways, right? Like Miles lives in Toronto here. I live in New York City. His winters are probably a little bit tougher than mine, so maybe he needs that warm jacket, whereas I need more of a fall or spring coat, right? Maybe I live in Florida and a jacket would seem egregious for me to receive in my inbox, right? So really listening to any data points you're collecting on your users in a compliant way, making sure you're letting them know you're collecting their data and that you're using it to better serve their experience with your brand, ultimately is how you're going to get ahead.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. This was great information. Now I know there's different types of email: transactional, trigger-based. Are you guys working on an automated workflow builder, or you already have that within your system?
So we do have a very basic automation workflow. Basically a welcome series that allows me, okay, someone signs up, let me send them a first campaign. After X amount of time, send them a second or a third email. So it's very basic. Maybe they change a contact property and we can trigger another series, or a date-based, it's your birthday, we can trigger some emails off of that. Outside of that, we're not getting into the really, really automated features. We know that there are better tools for that than us, to be completely honest. As Miles alluded to earlier, like know what you're good at. We're really good at sending emails, be it marketing, transactional, or automation. But some of the logic behind it, that's not going to be what we're going to do for your brand.
Okay.
And that's
Cool.
where partners come in really well, right? Where you can partner with the automation tools, and they come to us because we are that powerful pipeline for sending emails, but they might be the powerful front end interface to automate everything. So it really is about leading into both what we're good at and what they're good at, and that's where those partnerships really are fruitful.
Right, and I suggest, I mean, I would assume that you guys will work with, you have the pool that's a shared pool for anybody who have a small volume, and eventually as you start sending more, you can provision some dedicated IPs, and do you have automated warm-up procedures for that?
So we do offer, you hit the nail on the head, a shared pool for most SMBs or dedicated IPs. We actually have all our enterprise clients on dedicated IPs just to make sure they can own their email programs.
What volume you'd recommend getting them a dedicated IP?
It really depends. We usually talk about people who send a daily volume, consistent daily volume that's over like 20, 30, 50,000 emails per day. Anything less than that, it gets pretty challenging, I would say. So ultimately it depends, but anyone who's sending more than 1 million emails per month, you should have your own dedicated IP for sure.
Okay. 1 IP per million, or what's the ratio?
It actually depends on your max daily volume. That's what ISPs are looking at. So again, Gmail, Yahoo, Hotmail are looking how much mail is coming from this IP address in a 24-hour period. So again, it comes back to it depends. You need to send 1 million emails in a day. My recommendation would be 3 or 4 dedicated IPs that have been warmed up over time. If it's more consistent volume of 50, 60, 100,000 emails a day, 1 IP will suffice. It really just depends on the volume, and then we can get into the types of mail. Really, you should be keeping your marketing and your transactional streams on different IPs. Just so if there is an issue with those marketing IPs, it doesn't impact those really business important transactional IPs. IP reputation and management is a whole other topic we can get into. But yeah, ultimately it comes back to it depends on you.
Right. Well, if they need that in-depth conversation, they should definitely reach out to you guys and go in depth in this into this. But that's some great feedback. Now, last question: what do you guys recommend for those who want to start email marketing? Should they reach out to a professional who knows how to execute in 2019 email properly, or they just try to do it by themselves?
You could go either way, but I would definitely say it's always good to start by yourself just to educate yourself on the subjects initially. And when you start by yourself, start small. Figure out what do I want to do? Do I want to send a weekly newsletter? And start there, figure out what that looks like, then add segmentation, then add A/B testing, then make sure you're incorporating all the data that Kyle was talking about. Update your list collection practices. At a certain point, things will get complicated. You might want to add automation streams. You might want to integrate Mailjet or somebody else's API into your product or service. And certainly that's when you might want external support. And that's when we then bring this beautiful expert over here to help with your actual campaigns and help with your strategy. And that's the consulting practice that we provide. But I think what's kind of beautiful about our platform, and frankly, a few others, is the ability to jump into email, do it well, do it in a way that's not spamming your customers, and increasingly send beautiful campaigns. So I would definitely say start small and incrementally build from there.
Yeah, and just one point building off that is my recommendation is if you do have your own company that has different teams, don't allow them to email by themselves. Make it a business thought on how are we going to email our users. Not the marketing team needs to send a newsletter and the product team needs to send product updates. And the development team wants to send triggered transactional emails, right? Have someone that is actually project managing your email program to think about it holistically, because ultimately your customers don't care which team the email came from. They just see your brand. So really taking a holistic approach instead of a siloed, department by department approach would definitely help you in the long run.
That's great. And what benchmarks should they be looking for as far as open rates, click-through rates as the industry average, and bounce rates?
Yeah, I sound like a broken record. It depends on you, right? So some daily newsletters are better than others, right? Some people are looking for 30, 40, 50% open rates. Some people are happy when it hits 10%. My thinking on it is don't think about the open rate, think about the other side. If I sent a campaign that 10% of people open, that means 90% of the people I sent to actually didn't bother to open my email. Let's start thinking about why that was and how can we be better and things like that. So really for me, I'd like to see 20, 25, 30% open rates if you're sending, a consistent newsletter or things like that.
Okay, interesting. Well, I think this was great. Miles, Kyle, thank you so much for this information. I'll include details about Mailjet in the description of this video. So again, thank you so much for all the information, and I look forward to working with Mailjet.
Thanks, Richard.
Thank you, Richard.
We had a good time.